After months looking for these, I finally found the IKEA trading cards. Now, these were sold in 2007 for a few months before the start of the financial crisis, but that's not even what made them fail. In fact, it only took 7 months from their release until they stopped production completely. Today, the price of these cards has gradually climbed back up, given their rarity, but especially due to the rumors and urban legends surrounding them. Before we get into all that, though, let's take a look at our first card. Okay, so here we have a Besta card. Now, as you can tell from the design and aesthetic of this card and the furniture, this was a common rarity card. This game had 4 rarity levels: common, rare, ultra rare, and legendary, and this is the first type. It belongs to the storage and organization category, sells for $200, and has an article number of 193.249.76. We'll get into how the game is played later, but just know that this is a rather weak card overall. For now, let's start by talking about the first of 3 major tragedies which led this game to its downfall.
Have you read the contract?
Yes.
Do you agree to its terms?
Yes. Now, the first challenge IKEA faced had to do with the game's balance. After all, they have so many products that there wasn't an obvious way to classify and rank and balance them all. Stories say the head game designer had some ideas, but they would cost too much, and the company cared a lot about brand perception, so they ended up choosing rarity based almost solely on aesthetics. Now, as you can imagine, that's not the best idea for a competitive card game, and they ended up with way too many rares and commons compared to ultra rares and legendaries. Look here, for instance, we've only flipped over 2 cards, but we've already found a rare and a common. This could just be luck, but when you look at the game as a whole, there were almost as many rare cards as common cards, which led to common cards being worth almost nothing. No one wanted to buy or use them. Ultra rares and legendaries, on the other hand, were so scarce, but so powerful that they made even rare cards seem useless. Now, ultra rares were still somewhat available, but legendaries soon became impossible to find. This led to common cards like this Arcid right here being almost completely put aside. In fact, certain cards like this Besta were probably worth less than the materials used to make them. The economy of this game was in shambles right from its release, and that meant buying random card packs like these would overwhelmingly net you a loss unless you were somehow able to land yourself a legendary. Now, despite all of this, a lot of players still enjoyed the game. It was different from everything else, and the designs were sleek and clean compared to a lot of other trading card games at the time. But nonetheless, IKEA got worried about novelty wearing off and players leaving, and so the second great tragedy came about when they tried to solve this balancing issue.
You know how to play?
Yes.
Call it.
Oh, right. Higher article number.
Lower price.
Higher article number. Lower price.
Lower price.
Article number.
Lower price. Article number. Article number. Article number. Lower price.
Lower price. Higher article number. Lower price.
Pass.
Article number. Price. Article number.
Price. Pass.
Article number.
Pass. Price.
Article number. Done. Let me grab all this. Now they had to find a way to balance the game without invalidating or banning cards they had previously been selling. Those who had spent thousands getting legendaries would not take kindly to new rules or bans, and flooding the market with commons would only dilute it, not help improve things. The main designer wanted to take his time to find a comprehensive solution, but public and investor pressure meant that booster packs were forced through against his better judgment. Okay, not great again. These boosters affected the game's main mechanics and allowed you to influence other players' options in a way you couldn't before. Now, sadly, I don't have any here to show you because I couldn't afford to buy any. When everyone had boosters, the game did feel somewhat more balanced, but that meant you had to get some to stand a chance, or else everyone else had a clear advantage with them. The boosters weren't even added into the main deck that dealt everyone their hands. Instead, your boosters would be added into your hand directly. That's why almost none of them are even available today. See, this is what I mean when I talk about aesthetics being more important than anything else. Stockholm is a far worse card than Arsted, but because it looks nicer, it's the rarer card. To explain why Arsted is better, I should probably give you an overview of the rules now. You get dealt a hand of 7 cards, and your goal is to get rid of as many of them as possible. You do that by playing one of your cards if it has a higher article number or a lower price than the one currently in game. If we take Arsted as our base card, for instance, we would not be able to play Besta, Ancien, or Stockholm, since they have higher prices and lower article numbers. The only card we could play in this situation is Billy Oxburg, since although it has a higher price, it does have a higher article number. It would then become a top of our game, and if it were my turn to play again, I would play Besta or Ancien, since they have lower prices. Your final goal is to have as few categories remaining when no one can continue playing, but of course if you reach 0 categories first, you instantly win. The lead designer for this game was a member of the trading card community, and so he wanted to set this game apart by making it as easy to pick up and play as possible, while keeping open a lot of depth for strategy. See, with this lat card here, if the game ended and I had these 3 cards, I would have 1 category. If someone had Ancien and Arsted, they would have 2, and I would win. Now, if they only had Arsted, sure, we would have the same number of categories, but they would then have fewer cards overall, and so they would win. Which is why the number 1 priority is always to get rid of as many cards as possible, whenever possible. This is a real tie. Rarity was important since it would allow you to play multiple cards in the same turn. If you play a common card, that's it, your turn's over. But if you play a rare card, you can play another card after it. Ultra rares would give you 2 additional cards, and legendaries would give you 5. Since there's no big differences in price or article numbers, you can see now why rares are objectively better than common cards, especially when you start chaining them together. Boosters were also super powerful because they could affect card prices, article numbers, or even the total amount of categories you had at the end of the game. Some games were even dragged out until they ended with negative category counts, which clearly didn't help with the reputation of the game or of the booster cards. Oh, finally. Now this is a good card with a good resale value. Given its price and rarity, you can easily use it to start chaining together some combos. Honestly, the boosters weren't that bad. You can only add 1 to your hand per game, and if you ignored official rules and added them to the main deck so that everyone could use them, it was a fun additional mechanic. No, the third tragedy is really what sank this game and what makes it such a touchy subject to this day. What are you doing?
It's game 2. Time to add boosters.
Wait, I don't have any boosters. I didn't agree to this.
No, you've made your bet.
Wait, I didn't know.
You've made your bet. Price.
Article number.
Article number. Price. Article number.
Price. Number. Price. 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 Number. 50% off price.
Number.
Number. Number.
Pass. Price.
Number.
Number. Pass.
Pass. Price. Number. Pass.
Price.
Pass.
Pass. Price.
Number. Price. I think that's game.
What are you doing?
Well, I didn't realize you played with boosters, so I'm just gonna end my night early.
No, you won't.
Oh, don't worry. I'll be back once I get some of my own. I've got more money to make off you guys.
No, you won't. Sit down.
Because the boosters weren't received too well, and IKEA was spending so much money on this project, they decided to sell the rights of the game to FreeCard Inc. Even with future furniture releases, FreeCard would keep the ability to add them to the game indefinitely, although in order to secure such good conditions, they did have to spend a lot of money. Now, it's unsure if IKEA wanted the main designer gone after the game's failure, or if FreeCard really wanted someone experienced in charge, but regardless, the lead designer was forced to move over to FreeCard even after having spent over 23 years designing products at IKEA. Regardless, with the designer in the game no longer tied so closely to IKEA, other brands wanted to get a piece of the pie. They too wanted their own card game. But for many, it was too much of a risk given what had just happened. FreeCard came up with the perfect solution: crossover cards. By partnering with different companies and splitting sales revenue, FreeCard would get an endless supply of new cards they could sell for high prices, and the other companies would get a low-risk entry point to test demand. Shit, I thought I'd get better cards. Now, the lead designer, who remember had been forced to come over to FreeCard, was entirely opposed to this idea. Instead of solving the root of the issue, he thought this would just be like the boosters and add complexity and issues to an already unbalanced game. He had hoped that now that the game was no longer with IKEA, rarity could be rebalanced and separated from aesthetic, prices and article numbers could be tweaked, etc., etc. On top of that, from a branding perspective, he thought it would dilute the essence of the game to add random other companies, and that it would take away from what made the game so unique to add a million different cards with a million different characters that could do a million different things. But FreeCard had spent so much money on the acquisition that he was overruled, and the cards were rushed through production while he was essentially sidelined for insubordination. Fuck, these are all common rare. I'm not making any of my money back. The crossover cards were released and immediately failed. The designs were sloppy, the mechanics were overpowered and changed fundamental aspects of the game, and honestly, people could just tell it was a quick cash grab. But instead of getting mad at FreeCard, they all got mad at this designer. Ever since the game released, people had gotten angry because of flaws in its mechanics, but with each successive failure, that hate just grew. And now, in people's minds, he was the only common factor between IKEA and FreeCard, so they held him entirely responsible. An early internet hate brigade, the likes of which hadn't really been seen before, took over almost all trading card forums and spread even beyond that. IKEA and FreeCard were almost never named, and only he alone was subject to this endless barrage. He had given everything to this game and these companies, and he lost it all in return. And it might sound excessive when I say it like that, but keep in mind, he was now viewed as a sellout in the communities he cared about. He was ostracized at work because of internal disputes with higher-ups, and he didn't really have a family life to speak of either. Because of all that, sadly, a few days later, he passed away, and it's out of respect for his memory that I've chosen not to speak his name, given how poorly the internet has treated him in the past. The day before he was found dead was a particularly tragic one, since no employee from FreeCard can remember speaking to him, despite the fact he was clocked in all day, and over 1,000 posts were made on that day alone disparaging him. It broke the previous record, which had occurred just the day before. FreeCard quickly took the opportunity to halt production after he died, choosing to cut their losses like IKEA had done before them. And no official mention of his passing was ever made by IKEA or FreeCard, and so his name and his game quickly sank into obscurity. Oh my god, holy shit, I can't believe it. I didn't stage any of this. I can't believe this is the last card I flipped over. Blahage is one of the rarest and most valuable cards in this whole game. With this, I should be able to pay back however much I spent on the pack and maybe make a few $100s too. Guys, this is amazing. I don't even think there are any videos of this card on YouTube. That's how rare it is. Okay? So this is the perfect moment to remind you to like and subscribe, because I'm dedicated to bringing you the best content possible. Oh my god, wow. it just lost like 90% of its value. This shit is worthless. Forget making money. How am I even supposed to pay for rent this month or pay for food or... I don't have money for more packs. How am I going to get more money or more cards to sell? This was... Gambling like this was the only way I could afford to... Gambling. I guess I could...
Price, flash sale, price, number, price.
No, please don't do this. Please, I need to pay rent, I need to buy.
Number. Sit back down.
What? I don't have anything else. What do you need? What do you want? My clothes? Is it never enough? Okay, well, thanks everyone, and don't worry about this loss. I'll find a way to make my money back. I spent $7,000 on the pack and lost about $600, but I've got a gamble ready that should make it all back. After all, I've always been a lucky man. If you want to show support for the channel, make sure you hit subscribe. This was my 100 subscriber special. Just imagine what I'll do when we hit 1,000. After all, I reinvest everything I can into these videos, so once I can make money from AdSense one day, you'll be able to see content unlike anywhere else.